Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another comic book spoiler review. And today we'll be covering Deadpool. Yeah. Yeah. So Thursday I'll be covering a Deadpool 2 movie, but today I'll be covering a Deadpool comic, a 4-issue miniseries titled The Circle Chase. Even wearing my Deadpool shirt for this such occasion, because why wouldn't I? But before we continue, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let me know which Deadpool comic was your favorite. I like with the Sabretooth 4-issue miniseries that I did last week, which you can check out up on the channel, by the way. And also follow me in the links in the description below, like Twitch, Patreon, Twitter. Like with the Sabretooth 4-issue miniseries, I actually own the first issue of this, but I never got around to, knowing what else happened in the rest of the story. Now that I know, so it's kind of exciting. It's good when you're younger. You don't own all the comics. You didn't get every little issue. Sometimes you get part of an issue or a first issue, and it's just fun that you grow up. Now you have, with the growth of the internet, you have access to ways of reading comics that you never did before, and you didn't want to spend all that freaking money on all those comics. It's delightful to be able to now know what was the rest of that story all those years later, now that I know. But before we continue, let's go over Deadpool's abilities. And of course, we all know he has a healing factor. This will be fairly fast. Because the Weapon X program, he got, the program used Wolverine's healing factor bonded with Wade's powers, bonded with Wade, and because he had cancer at the time, trying to cure his cancer. Technically, it did cure it, but it's not perfect. His cancer is still there. That's why he looks the way he does, because the cancer is still there, and his cells are healing, constantly healing itself. And he's probably had one of the best healing factors of all the people who have healing factors, because he survives almost everything. There's even like an issue where he was pretty much liquefied and he just rises up, or torn apart and just put him back together again. So besides the healing ability, he's also technically immortal, mostly because of Thanos, but not sure that's been taken away or not, because the healing factor essentially does make you immortal irregardless. But Thanos, on top of all that, made him immortal so he wouldn't be with Mistress Death, who he has a thing for, and she's the only one who actually talks to Deadpool and never talks to Thanos, which makes him jealous. Telepathic immunity, possession resistance, superhuman strength. He actually can lift upwards to 800 pounds. He's faster than a trained athlete, superhuman stamina, agility, reflexes, durability. He's actually a master martial artist. So much so that he's just too unpredictable in his movements, making it very hard to fight him. Master assassin, multilingual, can speak Esperanto, German, Japanese, and Spanish. Medium awareness, that's his awareness of he being in whatever medium he's in, comic, video game, movie, whatever. Unpredictability. Weaknesses, he does has a level of mental instability, and for a time it was attributed to what happened in the Weapon X program, but it's shown later on in a different comic that as a kid he already had like certain problems. Annoyance, Wade's incessant talking can be very irritable in long periods around him. Domino at one point says his most lethal weapon is his mouth. Cure for cancer. Wade's healing factor is specifically designed to replace his body cells as fast as they are being destroyed by his illness. Should his cancer be cured, then his healing factor will be rapidly producing redundant new cells, which left unchecked will turn to a horrible growth and he eventually will explode. Phobias. Deadpool has bivenophobia, which is a fear of cows. Mystical curse. Deadpool was cursed for a short time by Loki, who claimed to be his father. The curse made him look like Tom Cruise, rendered his face totally invulnerable, and caused his life to fall to ruin. The curse was removed when Deadpool reconciled with his true father, who he met in a bar without realizing it was who he was. Deadpool has the classic full body red suit, which is tactical. Image inducer, when he wants to go unnoticed in a particular place. Bloodstone, during a fight against a bone beast hive which had cursed Elsa Bloodstone, which began affecting. Deadpool removed the stone from Elsa as she was succumbing to it and put it on himself, granting powers but also infecting as his healing factor was unstable. But I remember that, but that was temporary. His weapons, he's got the classic katanas, and he's very skilled in all forms of weapons though. Speech bubble. Deadpool's speech and thought balloons and captions are usually colored yellow to represent his distinctive voice, which most people comment sounds like a gravelly Demi Moore. And a teleportation device. So yeah, but Deadpool's one of the fun characters. He is in my top 5 favorite comic book characters ever. He's actually number 5, as Spider-Man being number 1, Superman being number 2, Batman 3, Wolverine number 4, Deadpool number 5. And I always love the comedic jokey characters. I really love those characters. I love comedy. So anyway, Deadpool the Circle Chase. Deadpool is on his way to his hideout where Weasel, in the past, his most well-known associate, his guy in the chair, and same guy who can supply him with the weapons and gear that he needs. There's this Deadpool is well known to be a mercenary, but back in the 90s, he was, associated with this guy named Tolliver, who is kind of like it's kind of like the Kingpin, but it's like more low key. He puts mercenaries on jobs for contract killings, and he's a big deal in the mercenary world. And in like an X-Force story, I think he got taken out, and he left this will where there supposed to be this supposed treasure. Now everybody named Mama in the mercenary world is trying to get at that will. Even going after people that personally knew Tolliver or in his inner circle. One being Deadpool. And of course, there's other people when they, either some get taken out or they're fighting for their lives trying to, despite not knowing what the heck is in the will or how to find it. So in the hideout shows this guy named Garrison Kane, who was part of the Weapon K. It's kind of derivative of Weapon X, but for Canada. And it's kind of like a discount cable with those metal arms. And he has, issues with Deadpool, so he just like attacks on sight because he actually is looking for Vanessa. Yes, you're thinking the exact same thing like you think you should be thinking. Vanessa from the Deadpool movies. Vanessa in the comics is actually a mutant named Copycat who can change her appearance with anybody who she comes in contact with. It's kind of like, but not like Mystique, because Mystique can always just change whenever she wants to whomever she so chooses to. Vanessa actually has to be in contact with somebody in order to copy them. I'm not sure if that's got to be physical contact or just in their mere presence. Either way, it's a very lesser degree of what Mystique can do. So Kane is actually looking for her because this villain named Slayback is seeking revenge against Deadpool for killing him. And somehow he got like revived as like some kind of cyborg, type of freak. And he's trying to track down Vanessa, fearing that Slayback will go after her in order to get to Wade. And these two duke it out in the hideout. And Weasel has to let them know, like, hey, don't you guys realize that neither one of you have the information that you each other want? And of course, Kane leaves with this little notion to Deadpool, like, hey, by the way, Slayback is alive. He's been spotted before, so fair warning. And of course, Deadpool and Vanessa in the comics used to be together, but they broken up for some reason. They just didn't work out, whatever. Not unlike the way you see in the movies. And kudos to like the movies and Ryan Reynolds, because I think, well, they could have made Vanessa in the comics, in the movies, a mutant too, but I guess it didn't really hurt all that much to just make her human. But you could think that you could have easily retconned that, whatever. But Deadpool had like other love interests. One time he married like a vampire queen. He had like a thing with Mystique. He actually in the comics has a daughter named Ellie. Is half Hispanic girl, half white, half Hispanic girl from a relationship which is probably one of the Vanessa and this other woman are probably the most stable relationships Deadpool ever had in his life. But the relationship ended not realizing that she was pregnant. And then of course later on Deadpool comes to realize he has like a daughter and everything like that, and he loves her, dotes on her, but given how his life is, he doesn't want her involved and in danger constantly. There's a story, he technically has another daughter called Itsy Bitsy, but it's like a clone thing. It's during the period where Peter Parker had like Parker Industries thing, and I think Weasel was involved because, you know, currently in the comics, Weasel and Deadpool are not friends anymore, ever, or at least work associates. And Weasel and I think it was Mephisto or somebody else that no, it was Mephisto because Weasel was dead at a certain point in time, and now he's technically resurrected by Mephisto to mess with like Spider-Man and Deadpool, and they took parts of their DNA to bond together, and they call this, you know, and they do this, you know, spider human, you know, humanoid thing called Itsy Bitsy, who talks excessively and jokes excessively, has spider-like appearance and abilities, and is a skilled, you know, kind of like assassin skill. So the what makes Deadpool and Spider-Man so good, they combine the two, and you never see her beyond that little story arc, but she was like, you know, like it was tough to look at because I don't like spiders, but she was like, you know, a devastating foe for the both of them. But anyway, but people more so remember Ellie, and I think she was so cute as a button. And actually, in like the future of 2099, she becomes like a superhero type of I don't want to say mercenary, but has like a skills like one. But she has a mutant ability where she can, it's like pretty much rebirth. If she dies, she just goes back into the body of herself when she was like a child. It's almost like, you know, like a memories of her previous life come snapping into the body of who she was as a kid in the past. Just a little FYI. Anyway, so now there's these two discs that combine will lay out directions to find Tulliver's treasure. And so Deadpool ends up saving this Egyptian guy who was an assistant to the assistant to Tolliver. And these mercenaries trying to grab this suitcase that has one of the discs inside. Deadpool saves him, and while he's trying to question him about what's going on, enter Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut, who also wants this secret treasure, and they end up pilfering the item from Deadpool. And of course, you know about the whole Juggernaut thing, Unstoppable Juggernaut, everything like that. But Black Tom Cassidy, which both characters show up in Deadpool 2, we'll get to that later in this week. But Black Tom Cassidy has a mutant ability to, you know, fire energy blasts whenever he's connected to wood. I'm not sure if it's all kinds of wood or actually like still plant-based woods only, but I'm assuming it's all kinds of wood he's in contact with. You know, he supercharges the fire as an energy blast. That's why he always carries around like a shillelagh, because he's also Irish. He always has like a shillelagh near him, almost always. So he always has access to it whenever he's around or goes anywhere. So thanks to Weasel, after Deadpool gets, you know, caught with his pants down and they took the briefcase off of him, they, you know, plan on taking part of the you know, try to find the other one. They take a plane ride. Weasel finds out what plane he's on, and Deadpool has to, you know, just hoof it, sneak on board. And which is kind of weird knowing how freaking planes work. Well, not how they work, but how dangerous they are if you're in like a pressurized space. Deadpool fires from below because he's like climbed on a wheel that was like, you know, being lifted inside the plane, fires from the ground. And also Juggernaut, being big as he is because of the Crimson Bands of Cigarette powers, not Crimson Band of Cigarette, but just Cigarette powers, he's taking up like 2-3 seats on the plane and couldn't, you know, charter a jet or something. It was way too big. How do you even get inside the plane? Another thing. But all the while, in the meantime, this mercenary soldier guy goes to Vanessa's house trying to look for her. Talks to the mom trying to see if do she know where Vanessa is, because he's just trying to warn her about Slayback, and people are looking for her because of her connection to Deadpool, and trying to figure out about this location of the will. And in the 90s, man, a lot of the female characters have all this big flowy, you know, hair. I mentioned that in my Rogues comic review, and I always love that. I don't know why. It's just like I love girls with very long hair. I was like run my fingers through it. And of course, Vanessa, realizing she needs to get ahead of this, goes to track down, goes to find like this building. Excuse me. This guy she used to know, and get information from him after she kind of like, you know, exposed the fact that she paid a visit to his mom and messed around with his dad. As a matter of fact, she made a comment like, your father has a surprising amount of stamina, given the fact that, you know, I was several different women trying to get info off of him, and he messed around with all of me, and trying to pretty much weasel, no pun intended, information from him so you can go to another building, access certain computers with passcode only he would, well, he out of a few people would know. And another former associate of Tolliver's, who, well, an associate to the brother of Tolliver. You know, this is very like a big web of people connected to this guy. He enlisted help from this mercenary group called the X-Elite. Somebody, you know, just, you know, some random group of mercenaries that really is going to end up getting, you know, taken out anyway. And trying to, because he hands them one of the discs he has. So while Deadpool has the other disc he took off of the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy, now these other mercenaries are going after him in order to get that other disc so they can complete the sequence. So, yeah. And like I said, this must be a large freaking plane, because I've been on a plane a few times in my life, and they're only, even like somebody like Shaq has to bend down and get in a certain way in order to get on board. This dude is like a brick shithouse of a person because of his powers. Okay, let's say the door is wide enough to get him inside, even though the artist had to play fast and loose with that. I know this is only a comic, but still though. And look at these seats. uh they still, even though they seem like, you know, lazy boy recliners, they're still not large enough to hold uh a guy that massive, and he clearly took it up 2 seats minimum. And like, I'd say they can, you know, still fly, because during my Cyclops comic review, Black Tom Cassidy and Juggernaut was on a plane that they, well, did not own, but was borrowing from a person that was hiring them to locate Cyclops for him. Check out my review of that. It was my first X-Men comic review for the channel. Sure, it can definitely carry the Juggernaut if he's not moving too crazy. But I don't know. It's just those two components should not be feasible. Anyway, Deadpool managed to get the disc off of these guys and toss, because the Juggernaut believes, like, you know, at least, well, probably still to this day, but at the time, Black Tom Cassidy is supposed to be like his only good friend. He considers his only good friend. Things evolve to a point right now where Juggernaut isn't like antagonistic towards the X-Men like he usually is in the past. You know, it's been years, many years since the 90s, you know, and how the Juggernaut typically operates towards people. But he jumps out the plane in order to go save Black Tom from falling to his death, because clearly the Juggernaut can survive almost anything. So he can easily jump on the plane and survive this kind of, you know, fall from the sky. So he has to get a hold of Black Tom Cassidy and protect him from the impact on the ground. And Deadpool just tosses his ass out the freaking plane. It was like, oh my god. Because, you know, Deadpool usually gives 0 Fs, especially when it comes to bad guys. So now he's getting ambushed by this elite people, and you tell this is the freaking 90s, because one of the members, I didn't even bother to remember their freaking names. They're not going to be important for very long. One of these people look like Grace Jones in the 90s. Because that's typically how, in the 90s type comic books, more often than not, just like in the 80s where most of the white guys have like mullets like Tony Stark back then, because that was the hairstyle of the time. In the 90s, many, you know, black people at that time had like those kind of you know, Christopher Reeve kid from Kid and Play type of hairstyle. Not that tall like it was in the movie, but still had that kind of flat top thing going on. A furry flat top. And I'm glad that look died in the 90s, because that was, sure, maybe it was all the rage during that period of time, but it was stupid looking. I think maybe, like, sure, Kid made it look cool, but it's only like that. It's only probably worked for him, in all honesty, in my personal opinion. Just like Halle Berry with the short hair, ever since like she came onto the scene back in the day, and she really rocked that short hair, every girl wanted to like do like a short hair thing. And it's like, you don't have the head for it. That's probably a major component of why it works for a certain amount of women. But, you know, Halle Berry really made every girl in the world wants to do the short hair because she was super popular. But they end up ambushing Deadpool, knocking him out. And of course, he didn't have the disc on him. Weasel had it. But they tried to get information off of him by putting this kind of device on his head try to essentially read his thoughts. But we all know, I just read it, you cannot read Deadpool's thoughts because it's a scrambled mess because his healing factors are always in flux. You can't properly read his mind. So you get like bits and pieces of other random crap from his past at most. Usually, according to like other mutants with psychic abilities, points out how it's almost like static in a way. But thanks to the timely intervention of Weasel, managed to burst in, because this is all like pretty much a trap they laid for these executive or ex-elite soldiers or whatever that they're called. And Deadpool and Weasel efficiently take them out, because I'm not sure how or when. It must have been said at some point, but maybe it was like a blurb or a blip somewhere. But it feels like, how did they know that these ex-elite members had that other disc that they're looking for? Sometimes when I read comments, sometimes maybe I had to read it quite a few times to pick up certain things that I didn't probably catch the first go around. But most times it feels like it wasn't unclear about certain things that they figured out later. Sometimes, not all the time. But they managed to take out these soldiers, and now they have the complete 2-disc set. This leads them to this church in Nepal, where this secret bunker for this supposed treasure would be. It turns out this treasure, well, there's other weapons caches inside, but there's this big kind of a machine humanoid thing there with no face. It's almost, if you remember, like the Justice League villains called like they got the playing card type of theme to these criminal thieves. Crap. You see them a lot in Batman Beyond. What is they freaking because you got Ace and Jack, King, Queen. Batman Beyond Rose Gallery. Royal Flush Gang, that was it. Royal Flush Gang. And I can't wait to start. It's probably gonna be a hot minute because I want to review, probably not until maybe next year. I want to review like a lot of Batman TV shows, the TAS, the Batman, Batman Brave and the Bold, and of course Batman Beyond. I know there's Beware the Batman, but I might review that too. But it's just not, out of all the TV shows, that one's probably like in the bottom tier for me. But anyway, on the Royal Flush Gang, there's this like a guy named Ace, this big dude. He kind of looks like that, but without the playing card symbol on him. And during Vanessa's investigation, she managed to figure out the location of this little secret area in this church, but ends up getting snatched up by Slayback. And he showed up and in like Kane's hideout, and I guess roughed him up. I don't know what. That's another thing. It's not very clear. Like, it's like he at some point showed up in Kane's secret hideaway, and I'm not sure if he just beat him up or interrogated him for some information. Is never seen. He just shows up at the end of, I think, issue 2. But then he's here in this this church in Nepal, and Kane shows up later, coming to rescue Vanessa, I guess. But it's just okay. Kane obviously did not know, so I don't know why he, if he was interrogating Kane, I don't know what he was trying to get information from him about, like where Vanessa is, because he doesn't know, because he was looking for that information too. And how he finds out about this church, because he didn't have information that he needed to get there in the first place. So he just there. Like I said, this didn't really make any sense. Okay, he just shows up. But he's clearly using her as bait to get at Deadpool, which he doesn't know if he's on his way or not, but he is. So yeah, Weasel and Deadpool manage to get in, find the cache, sees this seemingly, because Deadpool thinks it's some kind of like sex toy for Tolliver or something. Well, of course he will make some kind of joke like that, and is not moving, doesn't do anything. And Weasel's, estimation using this kind of, Ghostbusters EKG thing, and it beeps towards this thing. So clearly this is the treasure that Tolliver was hiding, and it turns out to be a weapon. We find out in a minute what it is, but Slayback starts to attack Deadpool using Vanessa is like a meat shield in a way, so Deadpool can't really fully counterattack. And he's, like I said, like a big cyborg type of monstrosity. Kane comes in to try to help out, but during the ensuing fight, this machine operates because, and they point out how ironic it is that Tolliver, a well-known like not only an arms dealer, but like a guy who puts mercenaries on jobs to take out targets, has built a weapon that destroys weapons, pretty much like an instrument of peace in a way. So once this conflict happens, it's immediately activated because it senses conflict. That's why it's in this this walled off, sealed location where it's not around conflict, or at least it's not sensing any conflict around them for miles. So it activates, it destroys Slayback because he's just a walking armament. The arms in Kane's arms are pretty much like like kind of like an EMP blast in a way, but it's just completely like useless now. Or at least the weapons inside are completely useless. All of Deadpool's tools and Weasel's tools are immediately destroyed. And he senses, Deadpool thing like, oh, you're a weapon of destruction. Now, of course, I kind of skipping past the part where Slayback is trying to like stab Deadpool, but Vanessa steps in, takes the blow, and it pierces her stomach. Deadpool, because of his healing cells and Copycat's ability, while Copycat is still, conscious, he has her physically in contact with him so she can copy his ability and heal herself, but she's still kind of out of it. And this kind of leaves like the robot to you're a means of destruction, but you're doing like a peaceful act. So I have to recalibrate some things because you're a walking contradiction. Uh, so uh, kind of blanked on whether or not this thing kind of deactivates or just splits altogether. 1 second here. Got that thing pulled up. A second. So yeah, it just pieces out altogether. Just to go to its purpose and seek out weapons of destruction and neutralize them. Don't know about that. I mean, like, I'm not sure many people have read comics where this guy, this robot shows up out of the blue, but yeah, we never see this guy again. So, and Slayback is just completely destroyed, just atomized by this robot. Kane takes Vanessa because Deadpool realized, like, as long as she's safe, it's all that matters. But since she's not good near me, of course, these two used to be a thing together. They still have care. They still consider them each other's friends at the very least. But Kane takes her so she can recuperate, and Deadpool and Weasel kind of like, yeah, well, find out what that thing is. So let's go home. So yeah, that was pretty much the circle chase. So yeah, that was the adventure, man. Like I said, I always loved like the 90s. Usually the 90s art, like, I really dig. Yeah, but I didn't mention about like the writer and the artist involved in this, because I leave space to mention it from the very beginning. I need to really keep that in mind when I'm doing these reviews. So writer Fabian Nicieza and art by Joe Madureira, or Mark Farmer, I should say. Yeah, I think it was like a Mark Farmer thing, artist. And Fabian and Joe are like co-writers. But yeah, that was Deadpool. Let me know in the comments below, if you're watching this on YouTube, what you think of Deadpool. And like, do you have like a favorite Deadpool comic? I had a tough time trying to figure out like a good Deadpool comic for me to review. I didn't want to choose like a long one, because there's quite a few long comics that, going through all these X-Men stuff. There's a few long ones that, like, I want to make sure I focus on the ones that's like no more than maybe 20 or so pages or issues, I should say. But no more minimum than 4 issues, between 4 and 30. But anyway, I will see you all in a few minutes while I do a review of the Marvel anime Wolverine. So look forward to that in a few minutes. Take care.